Hello students, how are you all? I hope you all are doing very well. So I'm your digital science mentor and today we are going to start our new chapter number 10, reaching the age of adolescence. So now let's start with the intro. In this chapter, you will learn about the changes that take place in the human body after which a person becomes capable of reproduction. Here, we shall discuss the role that hormones play in bringing about changes that make a child grow into an adult. So now let's see adolescence and puberty. Growth begins from the day one is born. But upon crossing the age of 10 or 11, there is a sudden spurt in growth, which becomes noticeable. These changes taking place in the body are a part of growing up. They indicate that you are no longer a child but are on the way of becoming an adult. Growing up is a natural process, the period of life when the body undergoes changes leading to reproductive maturity is called adolescence. Adolescence begins around the age of 11 and lasts up to 18 or 19 years of age. Since this period covers the teens, that is 13 to 18 or 19 years of age, adolescents are called teenagers. In girls, adolescence may begin a year or two earlier than in boys. Also, the period of adolescence varies from person to person. The human body undergoes several changes during adolescence. These changes mark the onset of puberty. The most important change which marks the puberty is that boys and girls become capable of reproduction. Puberty ends when an adolescent reaches reproductive maturity. So जैसे कि बच्चों अभी हमने देखा कि adolescence and puberty है क्या? Adolescence और puberty का जो फेस है वो 10 to 11 years के बीच में स्टार्ट हो जाता है. ये 10 और 11 और स्पेशली इन द केस ऑफ गर्ल्स ये 1 और 2 साल कुछ समथिंग बॉयज के अकॉर्डिंग पहले ही स्टार्ट हो सकता है. एडोलेसेंस और पुबर्टी में जो हमारे कुछ बॉडीज में मैच्योरिटी आनी स्टार्ट हो जाती है, हमारी बॉडी साइज, हमारी हाइट, काफी चेंजेस एक पर्सन की बॉडी में आना स्टार्ट हो जाते हैं. So now let's see the changes at puberty. So the first change is increase in height. The most conspicuous change during puberty is the sudden increase in height. At this time, the long bones, that is the bones of the arms and the legs, elongate and make a person tall. Initially, girls grow faster than boys, but by about 18 years of age, both reach their maximum height. The rate of growth in height varies in different individuals. Some may grow suddenly at puberty and then slow down, while others may grow gradually. All parts of the body do not grow at the same rate. Sometimes the arms and legs or hands and feet of adolescents look oversized and out of proportion with the body. But soon the other parts catch up and result in a proportionate body. You must have noticed that height of an individual is more or less similar to that of some family member. This is because height depends on the genes inherited from parents. It is, however, very important to eat the right kind of food during these growing years. This helps the bones, muscles and other parts of the body get adequate nourishment for growth. जैसे कि हमने इस टॉपिक में देखा कि प्यूबर्टी के दौरान जो हमारी हाइट है, किसी भी प्यूबर्टी के अंदर जिसने भी पर्सन ने एंटर लिया उसकी हाइट में सडन चेंज आता है. इस टाइम जो इनके बोन्स होते हैं वो एलोंगेट करते हैं और कई बार प्रोपोर्शन भी बिगड़ जाता है, बट मैक्सिमम एज तक वो पहुंचते दैट इज 18 और 19 एज जो बॉडी है वो प्रोपोर्शनेट हो जाती है. So now let's see the next topic, that is voice change. Did you notice that sometimes the voice of some of the boys in your class cracks? At puberty, the voice box or the larynx begins to grow. Boys develop larger voice boxes. The growing voice box in boys can be seen in protruding part of the throat called Adam's apple. In girls, the larynx is hardly visible from the outside because of its small size. Generally, girls have a high-pitched voice, whereas boys have a deep voice. In adolescent boys, Sometimes the muscle of the growing voice box go out of control and the voice becomes hoarse. This state may remain for a few days or weeks, after which the voice box becomes normal. So here you can also see the picture of Adam's apple in a grown-up boy. So आपने नोटिस किया होगा कि sometime boys में वॉइस चेंज होने लगती है, जो कि क्रैक करती है उनकी वॉइस. प्यूबर्टी के टाइम पे जो उनका लैरिंग्स होता है वो क्या होना स्टार्ट हो जाता है, ग्रो होना स्टार्ट हो जाता है, जिसकी वजह से उनकी जो वॉइस है, वॉइस होर्स हो जाती है और उनका जो वॉइस बॉक्स है वो लार्ज होता है, तो उसकी वजह से उनकी आवाज जो है वो फटने लगती है. बट जैसे ही टाइम बीतता है उनकी आवाज थोड़ी थोड़ी नॉर्मल भी हो जाती है, क्योंकि जो वॉइस बॉक्स है वो वापस से, बिकॉज वो ज्यादा बड़ा हो जाता है तो उसके बाद वो थोड़ा थोड़ा अपने नॉर्मल शेप में आने लगता है, जिसकी वजह से वॉइस भी नॉर्मल होने लगती है. और ये प्यूबर्टी के दौरान नॉर्मल बात है लड़कों में. और लड़कियों में जो वॉइस बॉक्स होता है वो लड़कों के अकॉर्डिंग छोटा होता है, इसलिए उनकी जो वॉइस होती है वो हाई पिच्ड होती है, और मोस्ट जो बॉयज की वॉइस बॉक्स होती है वो अक्सर नजर आती है, बट लड़कियों की नजर नहीं आती है, क्योंकि उनकी जो वॉइस बॉक्स होती है वो छोटी होती है. Now let's see development of sex organs. At puberty, male sex organs like testes and penis develop completely. The testes also begins to produce sperms. In girls, the ovaries enlarge and eggs begins to mature. Also, ovaries start to releasing mature eggs. So, sex organs में क्या होता है, जैसे कि हमें पता है मेल में टेस्टिस और पेनिस होते हैं, वो क्या हो जाते हैं, कंप्लीटली डेवलप होने लगते हैं, और जो टेस्टिस होते हैं वो स्पर्म को प्रोड्यूस करना स्टार्ट कर देते हैं. इन द केस ऑफ गर्ल्स ओवरीज एनलार्ज हो जाती हैं और एग्स मैच्योर होना स्टार्ट हो जाते हैं, और ऑल्सो जो ओवरी है वो मैच्योर एग्स को रिलीज करना स्टार्ट कर देती है. सो नाउ लेट्स सी द नेक्स्ट टॉपिक, दैट इज चेंज इन बॉडी शेप. Have you noticed that boys in your class have broader shoulders and wider chest than boys in junior classes? This is because they have entered the age of puberty, when shoulders generally broaden as a result of growth. In girls, the region below the waist becomes wider. In boys, the muscles of the body grows more prominently than in the girls. Thus, changes occurring in adolescent boys and girls are different. So, जैसे कि अब जो हमारा टॉपिक है बॉडी शेप में चेंज होना, कभी आपने नोटिस करा है क्लास में कि जो लड़के हैं उनके शोल्डर ब्रॉड होते हैं अकॉर्डिंग टू जूनियर क्लास बॉयज के, क्योंकि वो उस टाइम पे क्या होता है कि जो छोटे लड़के हैं वो तो प्यूबर्टी में एंटर किए नहीं होते, बट बड़े जो लड़के होते हैं वो प्यूबर्टी में एंटर कर चुके होते हैं. सो उनकी बॉडीज में चेंजेस आने लगते हैं. एंड सेम इन द केस ऑफ गर्ल्स, बिलो द पार्ट ऑफ द वेस्ट उनकी जो बॉडी है वो क्या करने लगती है, ब्रॉड होने लगती है. So now let's see the next topic, that is increased activity of sweat and sebaceous glands. During puberty, the secretion of sweat glands and sebaceous glands, that is also known as oil glands, increases. Many young people get acne and pimple on the face at this time because of the increased activity of these glands in the skin. A few glands such as sweat glands, oil glands, salivary glands release their secretion through ducts. Endocrine glands release hormones directly into the bloodstream, so they are also termed as ductless glands. So, जैसे कि अभी हम पढ़ रहे हैं स्वेट ग्लैंड एंड सेबेशियस ग्लैंड. ड्यूरिंग प्यूबर्टी जो स्वेट ग्लैंड्स और सेबेशियस ग्लैंड्स होती है वो क्या करने लगती है, सिक्रेशन करने लगती है, और काफी यंग पीपल जो होते हैं उनको एक्ने और पिंपल आना भी स्टार्ट हो जाते हैं इन्हीं स्वेट ग्लैंड की वजह से. So now let's see the next topic, that is reaching mental and intellectual and emotional maturity. Adolescence is also a period of change in a person's way of thinking. Adolescents are more independent than before and also self-conscious. Intellectual development takes place and they tend to spend considerable time thinking. In fact, it is often the time in one's life when the brain has the greatest capacity for learning. Sometimes, however, an adolescent may feel insecure while trying to adjust the changes in the body and mind. But at adolescent learners, you should also know that there is no reason to feel insecure. These changes are a natural part of growing up. जैसे कि अब जो है मेंटल, इंटेलेक्चुअल और इमोशनल मैच्योरिटी का समय आ जाता है प्यूबर्टी के टाइम पे। इसमें क्या होता है कि मेंटल थिंकिंग भी पर्सन की चेंज होने लगती है एंड कई बार तो पर्सन को इनसिक्योरिटी आने लगती है जो कि उनकी बॉडीज में चेंजेस हो रहे होते हैं, लेकिन इसमें इनसिक्योरिटी की बात नहीं है। इट इज जस्ट अ indication that you have entered in the phase of puberty. So now let's see the next topic, that is secondary sexual characters. You have learned that testes and ovaries are the reproductive organs. They produce the gametes, that is sperms and ova. In girls, breasts begin to develop at puberty and boys begins to grow facial hairs, that is moustaches and beard. As these features helps to distinguish the male from the female, they are called secondary sexual characters. Boys also develop hair on their chest. In both boys and girls, hair grows under the arms and in the region above the thigh or the pubic region. So जो कि इस टॉपिक में हमारा है सेकेंडरी सेक्सुअल कैरेक्टर, इसमें कुछ चेंजेस ऐसे होते हैं जैसे कि प्यूबिक रीजन में हेयर ग्रोथ हो जाना, अंडर आर्म्स हेयर ग्रोथ हो जाना, फेस पे माउथ हैचेस एंड बियर्ड आ जाना मेल के, जो कि फीमेल से वही क्या करता है, डिफरेंशिएट करता है। इन्हें हम सेकेंडरी सेक्सुअल कैरेक्टर्स कहते हैं। सो नाउ लेट्स सी द नेक्स्ट टॉपिक, दैट इज रोल ऑफ हॉर्मोन्स। The changes which occur at adolescence are controlled by hormones. Hormones are chemical substances. These are secretion from endocrine glands or endocrine system. The male hormones or testosterone begins to be released by the testes at the onset of puberty. This causes changes in boys about which you have just learned, for example, the growth of facial hair. Once puberty is reached in girls, ovaries begins to produce the female hormone or estrogen, which makes the breast develops. Milk secreting glands or mammary glands develop inside the breast. The production of these hormones is under the control of another hormone secreted from an endocrine gland called pituitary gland. So now let's see the role of hormones in initiating reproductive functions. Endocrine glands release hormones into the bloodstream to reach a particular body part called target site. The target site responds to the hormone. There are many endocrine glands or ductlets gland in the body. The testes secrete sex hormones, that those hormones are responsible for the male and female secondary sexual characters. Further, the sex hormones are under the control of hormones from the pituitary gland. The pituitary secretes many hormones, one of which makes ova mature in the ovaries and sperms form in the testes. So here you can see the flow chart in which hormones from pituitary stimulate testes and ovaries to release testosterone in male and estrogen in female. After that, released in the bloodstream and reach parts of the body, that is your target site. Next is your stimulate changes in the body at onset of puberty. The onset of puberty is controlled by hormones. Now let's see the next topic, that is reproductive phase of life in humans. Adolescents become capable of reproduction when their testes and ovaries begin to produce gametes. The capacity for maturation and production of gametes lasts for a much longer time in males than in females. In females, the reproductive phase of life begins at puberty, that is 10 to 12 years of age, and generally lasts till the age of approximately 45 to 50 years. The ova begins to mature with the onset of puberty. One ovule matures and is released by one of the ovaries once in about 28 to 30 days. During the period, the wall of the uterus becomes thick so as to receive the egg. In case it is fertilized and begins to develop. This results in pregnancy if fertilization does not occur. The released egg and the thickened lining of the uterus along with the blood vessels are shed off. This causes bleeding in women, which is called menstruation. Menstruation occurs once in about 28 to 30 days. The first menstrual flow begins at puberty and is termed menarche. At 45 to 50 years of age, the menstrual cycle stops. Stoppage of menstruation is termed as menopause. Initially, menstrual cycle may be irregular. It takes some time to become regular. Menstrual cycle is controlled by the hormones. The cycle includes the maturation of the egg, its release, thickening of uterine wall, and its breakdown if pregnancy does not occur. In case the egg is fertilized, it begins to divide and then gets embedded in the uterus for further development. So now let's see the next topic, that is, how is the sex of the body determined? Inside the fertilized egg or zygote is the instruction for determining the sex of the body. This instruction presents in the thread-like structure called chromosomes in the fertilized egg. Chromosomes present inside the nucleus of every cell. All human beings have 23 pairs of chromosomes in the nuclei of their cells. 2 chromosomes out of these are the sex chromosomes named X and Y. A female has 2 X chromosomes while a male has 1 X and 1 Y sperm chromosome. The gametes have only 1 set of chromosomes. The unfertilized egg always has 1 X chromosome, but sperm are of 2 kinds. One kind has an X chromosome and the other kind has a Y chromosome. When a sperm containing X chromosome fertilizes the egg, the zygote would have 2 X chromosomes and develop into a female child. If the sperm contributes a Y chromosome to the egg, that is ovum, at fertilization, the zygote would develop into a male child. Now, you know that the sex chromosome of the father determines the sex of an unborn baby. The belief that the mother boy is responsible for the sex of her baby is completely wrong, and to sex determination in humans, blame her for this is totally unjustified. So now let's see the next topic, that is hormones other than sex hormones. The hormones secreted by the pituitary gland stimulate testes and ovaries to produce their hormones. The pituitary gland is the endocrine gland. It is attached to the brain. Apart from the pituitary gland, the testes and the ovaries, there are other endocrine adrenal glands in the body such as thyroid, pancreas and adrenals. If a boy has a very big and bulging throat, then he is suffering pancreas from goitre, a disease of the thyroid gland. His thyroid gland was position of not producing the hormone thyroxine. So here you can also see the picture of position of endocrine glands in the human body. Anyone is suffering from the diabetes because his pancreas was not producing the hormone insulin in insufficient quantities. Adrenal glands secrete hormones which maintains the correct salt position of endocrine glands in the balance in the blood. Adrenals also produce the hormones human body adrenaline. It helps the body to adjust to stress when one is very angry, embarrassed or worried. Thyroid and adrenals secrete their hormones when they receive orders from the pituitary through its hormones. Pituitary also secretes growth hormone which is necessary for the normal growth of a person. So now let's see the next topic, that is role of hormones in completing the life history of insects and frog. We have already learned about the life history of the silk moth and the frog. The caterpillar has to pass through various steps to become an adult moth. The stages of the life history of silk moth. Similarly, the tadpole passes through certain stages to become a frog. And the amazing fact is that if people do not have enough iodine in their diet, will they get goitre caused by lack of thyroxine. So now, this change from larva to adult is called metamorphosis. In insects is controlled by insect hormones. In a frog, it is controlled by thyroxine, the hormone produced by thyroid. The thyroxine production requires the presence of iodine in water. If the water in which the tadpoles are growing does not contain sufficient iodine, the Tadpoles cannot become adult. Now let's see the next topic, that is reproductive health. The physical and mental well-being of an individual is regarded as an individual health. To keep the body healthy, every human being at any age needs to have balanced diet. The person must also observe personal hygiene and undertake adequate physical exercise. During adolescence, however, these becomes even more essential as the body is growing. So now let's see the next topic, that is nutritional needs of the adolescents. Adolescence is a stage of rapid growth and development. Hence, the diet for an adolescent has to be carefully planned. A balanced diet means that meals include proteins, carbohydrates, fats, and vitamins in requisite proportion. Our Indian meals of roti, rice, dal, that is pulses, and vegetable is a balanced meal. Milk is a balanced food in itself. Fruits also provide nourishment. For infants, mother milk provides all the nourishments that they need. Iron builds blood, and iron-rich food such as leafy vegetables, jaggery, meat, citrus, Indian gooseberry, that is amla, are good for adolescents. And the amazing fact is that make a group with your friends, write down the items of food in your breakfast, lunch, dinner you had on the previous day. Identify the item responsible for proper growth. Also identify the junk food that you consumed the previous day. So now let's see the next topic, that is personal hygiene. Everyone should have a bath at least once every day. It is more necessary for teenagers because the increased activity of sweat glands sometimes makes the body smelly. All the parts of the body should be washed and cleaned every day. If cleanliness is not maintained, there are chances of catching bacterial infection. Girls should take special care of cleanliness. During the time of menstrual flow, they should keep track of their menstrual cycle and be prepared for the onset of menstruation. Use sanitary napkin or clean homemade pads. Change pads after every 4 to 5 hours as per the requirement. And the amazing fact is that collect data on the number of children in your class and who exercise regularly and who do not exercise regularly. Did you notice any difference in their fitness and health? Prepare a report on the benefit of regular exercise. So now let's see the next topic, that is physical exercise. Walking and playing in fresh air keeps the body fit and healthy. All young boys, girls should take walks, exercise, and play outdoor games. Now let's see myth, taboos, do and don'ts. We have learned here and from chapter 9 the scientific facts related to human reproduction. There are many wrong notions which you should now be able to discard as informed adolescents. For one example, there are myths and taboos regarding bodily changes that adolescents experience. Some of these are given below and you can now argue why these are myths and not facts. The first, a girl becomes pregnant if she looks at boys during menstruation. The second myth is that the mother is responsible for the sex of her child. The next myth is a girl should not be allowed to work in the kitchen during menstruation. You may come across many other myths and taboos. Discard them. Now let's see adolescent pregnancy. You might be knowing that in our country the legal age for marriage is 18 years for girls and 21 years for boys. This is because teenage mothers are not prepared mentally or physically for motherhood. Early marriage and motherhood cause health problems in the mother and the child. It also curtails employment opportunities for the young woman and may cause mental agony as she is not ready for responsibilities of motherhood. So now let's see the next topic, that is say no to drugs. Adolescence is a period of much activity in the body and mind. This is a normal part of the growing up. So do not feel confused or insecure. If anybody suggests that you will get relief if you take some drugs, just say no unless prescribed by the doctor. Drugs are addictive if you take them once. You feel like taking them again and again. They harm the body in the long run. They ruin health and happiness. You might have heard about AIDS, which is caused by dangerous virus HIV. This virus can pass on to a normal person from an infected person by sharing the syringes used for injecting drugs. It can also be transmitted to an infant from the infected mother through her milk. The virus can also be transmitted through the sexual contact with a person infected with HIV. So I hope you have understood all of these topics. So now wrapping it up, let's see some points. Humans become capable of reproduction after puberty sets in. Children between the age of 11 and 19 years are called adolescents. The onset of puberty brings about growth of the reproductive organs. Hair growth at various places on the body, breasts develop in girls, and facial hair, that is mustache and beard, appear in boys. Voice of boys becomes hoarse as voice box enlarge during adolescence. Children gain height during adolescence. The onset of puberty and maturity of reproductive parts are controlled by hormones. Hormones are secretion of endocrine glands which pour them directly into the blood stream. Pituitary gland secretes hormones which include growth hormone and hormones that make other glands such as the testes, ovaries, thyroids and adrenals secrete hormones. Pancreas secretes insulin, thyroid produces thyroxine and adrenal produce adrenaline. Testosterone is the male hormone and estrogen the female hormone. The uterine wall, females prepare itself to receive the developing fertilized egg. In case there is no fertilization, the thickened wall of the uterine wall breaks down and goes out of the body along with the blood. This is called menstruation. Sex of the unborn child depends on whether the zygote has XX or XY chromosomes. It is important to balance food and maintain personal hygiene during adolescence. So now let's see some keywords. The first is your adolescence, period of life when body leads to reproductive maturity. Next is your larynx, that is your voice box. Next is your pituitary gland, that is also called master gland. Menstruation, process of releasing egg with the thick thing of uterus in the form of bleeding. Next is your insulin, a hormone secreted by pancreas. So I hope you have understood all of these topics. So now kids, we will meet in the next lecture with a new chapter. Till then, revise this chapter and keep learning. Thank you.